Hey, good day and good evening, everyone. It's so great that you joined us this evening. I hope that you can all hear me well, so just let me know in the chat section if everything is working fine. I will be glad if you let me know. I'm Sophie, and I will be your host today. And of course, welcome to IVF webinars by Egg Donation Friends. No matter if you are for the first time with us today or you joined us for some time now, we are here every week, every Tuesday. We have a new topic and we have over 60 IVF webinars so far. And all our IVF webinars can be found on our website, eggdonationfriends.com/IVF-webinars. So feel free to use it, to research this huge source, and to share it with anybody who may need information as well. Of course, our IVF webinars are brought to you with the help of our partners, Spende, Fertility Clinics Abroad, and Donor Conception Network. And today, we are here to talk about very important topic, IVF with donor eggs, and the questions may be difficult for anybody who faces this decision. Will the baby be healthy and will the baby look like me? Complete guide on phenotype matching and genetic inheritance. And our expert today is Dr. Stavros Natsis from Gennima IVF. And his presentation will take around 30 minutes. And later, of course, we will have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, even now, you can start and type those questions in the chat section. If the questions will come up, no worries, you can type those questions later. And of course, this webinar is also recorded, so it will be available on our website tomorrow. I think that's it for now from me. So if you are ready, Dr. Natsis, we can start.
Thank you very much. Hi, you're great. Thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Stavros. I'm a gynecologist and a fertility specialist. Today we'll speak about a very sensitive matter, as you said before, which is egg donation. And I promise I will try to keep it as simple as I can so anybody here can understand the basic principles of this procedure. So to begin with, we will discuss a little about fertility, and we will discuss how we do the egg donation, how we choose the appropriate donor, and why your baby will be healthy and will look like you. So to begin with, most of us here, we know that there are a few factors that can affect the fertility. Age is the single most important prognostic factor that can affect the fertility. Unfortunately, as we are aware, women are born with a certain amount of eggs and they grow older with them. On the other hand, men have the advantage of producing new sperm approximately every 3 months. Another limiting factor for the fertility is the time interval in which the couple is trying to conceive. We know that a couple that is trying for many years and has done several IVF attempts, it's a little more difficult to conceive with IVF treatment. And also another very important factor is the reason why a couple is infertile. We know that it's different if it's a tubal factor, or we have problems with the receptivity of the endometrium, or we have a problem with the sperm. It's a completely different story. Of course, the number of the mature oocytes and the quality of the embryo is another very important reason. I would like to highlight a few things about the age so most of the women can understand why age is affecting the fertility. On the left-hand side, we have this diagram that shows the fertility of a woman according to her age. As we can see here, a girl that is 22 years old, her fertility is on the highest level, which is only 25%. What 25% means, though? It means that if we were collecting each egg every month, we would probably need 4 months to find one healthy egg that has good chromosomes and will lead to a healthy and viable pregnancy. 3 out of 4 eggs, even in a girl that is 22 years of age, have chromosomal abnormalities. This stays relatively stable up to the age of 35, where we have 1 good egg out of 5. And then we have a significant drop up to the age of 40, where it's approximately 10%, which means 1 good egg in 10. After the age of 42, fertility becomes even more, it drops even more, and it's around 4%, which means 1 good egg every 20 eggs that we collect. On the other side, we have this red dotted line, which is actually the miscarriage diagram according to the age. And you can see that the 22-year-old girl, when she becomes pregnant, she has 95% of delivering a healthy child. 5% is the miscarriage rate. As we can see, a girl that will become pregnant at the age of 44, her miscarriage rate skyrockets up to 50%. So the reason is that one of the 19 abnormal eggs can become fertilized and lead to a pregnancy which will stop eventually because of chromosomal abnormalities. On the right side, we have a diagram that it was taken from a study that was conducted a few years ago. They tested embryos. They did a pre-implantation testing on day 3 of embryos from various age groups. And we can see that up to the age of 35, the chances of chromosomal abnormalities in these embryos is only 20%. So 80% these embryos up to 35 are going to be healthy. For age groups above 42, we can see that the chances of abnormal and chromosomal abnormalities embryos reach up to the level of 90%. We have to say, though, that when we do the egg donation, age is not an issue. And actually, it's like traveling back in time. And we can see that a girl that is 45, when she goes ahead with egg donation, she will be again in this area of the diagram. So, having said all this information, we would like to ask usually the people that come for consultation whether egg donation could be the right decision for them. Of course, we are aware that probably is the toughest decision a couple has to make through their life. It's not easy to say that I cannot use my own genetic material. For some couples, this is a little more straightforward decision because some women could be postmenopausal at the age of 42 due to premature ovarian failure, or they had previous surgical removal of the ovaries, or they had chemotherapy and made their ovaries stop working. For other couples, though, it's a little more difficult decision because a woman that she has a normal period at her 45, it's difficult to convince her that the eggs, the quality of the eggs is not good. And also other couples that they started late to try to conceive. Again, they haven't tried for a long time to be convinced that they have to go for egg donation. If a couple decides that egg donation is a suitable solution for them, then they have to trust a place that has a lot of experience with this procedure and a place with high success rates because egg donation is an excellent solution, but it doesn't work 100% as well. We have seen couples that they had failed attempts of egg donation, that they are in complete despair because they feel that the final solution for them hasn't work. So the choice of the place that they will do this procedure is a very, very important step. So who is a suitable donor for a couple? Of course, the donor is a person that ideally would look like the woman, and we mean phenotypically, and also a person that is healthy and a person that has a similar background socially, educationally, religion, and all these things are really good. How do we choose a suitable donor for a couple that will trust? Here in Greece, we know that the egg donation is completely anonymous. What that means? It means that a couple cannot find out the identity of the donor, and they cannot see a picture of the donor as she looks today. This protects the families from weird situations that they can occur in the future, because the donor as well has no idea where her eggs have gone. The first step is to do a proper phenotype matching, which means that we have to make sure that the donor is similar to the woman of the couple. The clinics have large databases with donors, and also they have donors that they walk in daily. And we try to match them for body type, hair color, for eyes, the smile. All this needs a dedicated team that is trying to do the phenotypically matching. We take a very thorough medical history, including personal and family history. Usually the donors, when they answer the questionnaire, they're honest, they don't hide things. But also the questionnaire is made in a certain way that can pick up answers that they are not true, and we can exclude these people. We perform all the necessary blood tests for genetic conditions like cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, fragile legs. And also we perform blood tests for transmittive diseases like hepatitis, syphilis, or HIV. And also we do all the proper prenatal testing. If the couple wishes, we can do additional tests as well. If the couple is afraid of a certain genetic disorder, we can, of course, perform that to the donor. We can do a proper psychiatric evaluation to the donor by psychiatrist, specialist, and also we can add extra questions to the questionnaire. Of course, every donor needs to be screened for their fertility as well, because even a 22-year-old girl sometimes can be infertile. We will do all the necessary hormonological checks and all the ultrasound scan. It would be ideal if the donor had already one child, and with this way to prove her fertility by having a child of her own. A couple of things that I would like to highlight, because probably some of the viewers have read in the internet. There are some clinics at the moment that they are offering some testing to the donors for HLA, which stands for human leukocyte antigen. It's a way to see if immunologically the donor and the recipient are matching. And although it's not medically proven, some clinics use that in cases that we have recurrent failures with egg donation. Another thing that some viewers might have seen is couples sometimes insist in selecting the blood group of the donor, especially the couples that they do not intend to reveal to their children the way that they were conceived. Again, this is something that of course can happen. So when we find the ideal donor, usually the clinic informs immediately the couple, and we have two ways to do that. The first one to do it in a fresh cycle, and the second is to do that in to transfer thawed embryos. So if we go ahead with a fresh cycle, usually we try to synchronize the cycle between the donor and the recipient. This is a very easy procedure which happens quite often. We might use some medication which are called GnRH analogs. It's a very easy to do injection, and we can synchronize the two cycles. The donor takes all the injections, and we start the stimulation, and at the same time the recipient starts a substituted cycle where we give some very mild human replacement hormone replacement treatment. It's estrogen actually, to help to build up the lining of the womb. The donor always starts a tailor-made stimulation according to their fertility assessment in order to take the maximum amount of eggs and also mature eggs. On the day of the egg collection, we need the sample from the partner, and the recipient usually starts a second hormone called progesterone to receive the embryo. Ideally, we would like to take more than 10 to 12 eggs because, as we discussed earlier, if we take 12 eggs from a 22-year-old girl, at the end, 3 or 4 are going to be healthy to lead to viable and healthy pregnancy. The eggs that we will take, we will fertilize them with the appropriate technique, which could be either simple IVF or microinsemination, depending on the sperm characteristics like the mobility, the sperm count, the DNA fragmentation index, or the acidotic stress of the sperm. On the next day, we will inform the couple how many of the eggs got fertilized. For example, if we take 12 eggs, a good fertilization could be 9 to become embryos of day 1. These embryos, we will put them in a place which we call incubator, and they will stay there to develop. Some clinics that have excellent results use a new generation incubator, which has time-lapse technology, and I will explain what this is. This incubator has slots for each embryo. When we insert the embryo inside, this incubator will not open until the day we transfer the embryo to the womb. And it has built-in cameras that they monitor the way that the embryo is developing. We know from research that healthy embryos are developing in a certain way. They get divided in a specific amount of time, and these cameras can pick up this rate and using a special algorithm to give additional information to the embryologists. Another big advantage of these new generation incubators is the fact that they do not open and they keep the microenvironment that these embryos are developing stable. The older generations incubators, we have to open them, we have to take pictures, we have to close them again, and sometimes this can cause a small disruption to the embryos. We have seen that there is quite a big improvement in the success rates by using this. Sophie probably can start playing a video that we have just to see how time-lapse technology looks. It's always impressive to see the formation of a new life. Usually the patients take that with them when we do the embryo transfer. And you can see the way that from 2-cell embryo, it has become now an embryo day 5, which apparently it has excellent quality, and this is called blastocyst. We have reached on day 5, we have now the embryos, and we need to transfer them back to the mother. The Greek law allows us to transfer up to 2 embryos. We usually recommend, because if the clinic has good lab, to transfer 1. To be honest, we would like to have a singleton pregnancy with the first attempt, but here in Greece we can transfer up to 2 blastocysts. In case that we have additional embryos, additional blastocysts, this can be cryopreserved for a future embryo transfer or for a second attempt or another baby in the future. If we transfer 2 good quality blastocysts, most of the research suggests that we have a success rate of 70 to 75%, no matter irrespectively of the mother's age. 8 out of 10 times that we transfer 2 embryos, the pregnancy will continue as singleton, but 2 out of 10 we have a twin pregnancy. Now, if it is not feasible for the couple to do this in a fresh cycle because they couldn't take leave from their work or because they're coming from far away, in that case, we can put the blastocysts for cryopreservation and do the transfer in a later date. We know from the literature that we have excellent success rates even when we transfer frozen embryos. So the pregnancy that will occur when we transfer the embryos is going to be exactly like any other pregnancy that has occurred after IVF treatment with our own eggs or with a spontaneous conception at home. The mother will be advised to have all the necessary and suggested antenatal and prenatal tests that each healthy system is providing. But we have to bear in mind that the possibility for Down syndrome and other chromosomal abnormalities is much lower because we calculate the possibilities with the donor's age and not with the maternal age. So to answer your question, if the baby is going to be healthy, the answer is yes, your baby will be healthy because you are going to be again 25-year-old pregnant. And also we have done a lot of research, and we have it's an old knowledge since 1998. Some researchers studied the general health status of children under 5 years of age, that they were conceived with egg donation, and they found that there is no difference with eggs that they were conceived with IVF with their own eggs. And also there was another study that showed that there was no increase in the the congenital malformations in infants resulting from egg donation as well. So this is a well-established knowledge, and it's a very safe procedure, and your baby is going to be healthy. The other question that a lot of people ask is whether the baby is going to look like the mother, and the short answer is yes, it will. The reason that this is going to happen is because, first of all, we try to do the best phenotypically matching that we possibly can. And we try to do that also with psychological preferences and also the educational background and everything else. Lately, probably a lot of viewers have read that there could be some fragments of DNA passing from the mother to the fetus, which I will tell you later. And also, probably you have heard something which is called epigenetics, and nowadays is in the center of the egg donation research. But what is epigenetics? Epigenetics actually is a study that we try to study the way that the environment can influence a growing baby, a growing embryo. we know that from 1999, some women that they were eating unhealthy diet during their pregnancy, they delivered babies that later in their life they developed um, uh, metabolic syndromes, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, which were not related to the DNA, but it was related to the environment that they were exposed while they were embryos. This discovery was named Developmental Origins of Health and Disease, and it's growing a lot of attention. A more precise definition would be the study of the changes in the function of the genes that are heritable and do not entail a change in the DNA sequence. Epigenetics demonstrated that not only we have to have a healthy DNA, but also the environment that the baby is growing should be healthy as well. But how it works? We know that in the human body we have tiny particles called microRNAs, which is actually a relative of the DNA. This particle, what they do is adjust the way that the genes are working. It's like trying to imagine a dimmer for the light. We can turn the dimmer on or to reduce the light, or we can turn it off and make the light more intense. This is exactly what the microRNAs are doing. We know that in the human body we have more than 2,500, which can actually affect the whole of the genome. A research group did a very interesting study a few years ago, and they saw that the mice that they were in their implantation window, they took some fluid from the womb and they discovered these microRNAs. They looked further into a certain microRNA particle, and they discovered that actually some of the embryos that they were inserted, they took this particle, and some of the genes, several genes were turned up compared to the embryos, the mice embryos that they didn't take this microparticle. To make it a little more simple, try to imagine that genetics and DNA is like the musical score of a musical composition, and epigenetics is the way that the orchestra will interpret the score. You can listen to the same song from 5 different orchestras and you will listen to something different each time. So, to answer the question, does a donor can give solid parts of DNA to their children? The answer is no. All the research does not support that. But a woman that will receive a donor egg can absolutely influence the way that the genes will work. And with this epigenetics, we can confirm the fact that mother plays a crucial role to the development of a healthy fetus. Another very difficult question that a lot of couples are doing is whether they should tell their children or not. This is something that we don't have an answer as well. There is no right or wrong. It depends on the social status and the country that the couple lives, how open they are about that. Nowadays, more people are using egg donation and they are more open about this procedure rather than 10 years ago. I want, however, to highlight that if for some reason the family needs to track down the donor, they can contact the IVF clinic and they keep an excellent database and they can find the donor, especially for medical reasons, to do some additional testing, even if this is many, many years later. So another thing that I would like to state is what would be the ideal clinic to choose for ahead with the egg donation? Usually the answer is something that most couples know from the first visit to a clinic. The moment they walk in, they can understand whether they trust the people and the team that they come, and if they treat them with honesty in their first consultation. I think this is paramount because you have to develop a very close relationship with these people. But all the IVF clinics should work under strict regulations, and they should follow strict protocols. There are some organizations that they can ensure uh, the correct way of the IVF clinic function, and this could be ISO, could be ESRE, which is the European Society of Human Reproduction. It is very important to have easy access to the clinic and a dedicated team for egg donation, that they speak fluent English, which is a language that most of us use. Of course, this is a clinic that have to do tailor-made treatments and treat each patient individually, and not like using the same treatment to all of other patients. So these are very, very important steps that the couple needs to take to make sure that the clinic that they're going to work with has everything in order. If you decide to go ahead and do some egg donation in Greece, that would be a very nice, a very good solution. We have a lot of benefits. We know that it's a very, very stressful procedure, but if you are in a place that it's an excellent destination for vacations, this can relieve a lot of the stress. Greece is a place that has easy access with flights from all around the world. We have a good transportation network, good hotels with affordable prices. Also, the cost for the egg donation here in Greece is significantly lower than other European countries or the United States. We can perform egg donation here in Greece up to the age of 50. And we know that Greece is a place, it's an IVF destination for many couples, and we have a lot of excellent doctors. We have a lot of experience in doing this. And the strict Greek laws and also the European laws that we follow ensure your well-being and your child's well-being as well. Of course, there are some downsides if you decide to do egg donation in Greece. Here, because of the anonymity, we cannot reveal any of the personal details for the donor, and this is something that a few couples might find disturbing, and they cannot go ahead with an anonymous donor. Also, for same-sex couples, still the Greek law doesn't actually recognize same-sex couple marriage, and for that reason, women need to go ahead and do that as single mothers, this procedure. So, closing this discussion, I would like to tell you that it's a very, very difficult decision, but you should never give up on your dreams. We know that all the stress, all the difficult conditions at the end will be completely forgotten, but your family will be there forever. And you are much closer than you think to your aim, which is to create a family. It's just you need to take the right decision sometimes, which could be tough. Thank you very, very much, and I look forward to answer your questions.
Thank you. Thank you for
You're
the
welcome.
It was very informative and understandable, taking into consideration the topic which we have, which is not easy. And of
Yeah.
course, we have questions already. So anybody who has question, please type those questions in the chat section. And the first question will be this one. How is it that an excellent quality embryo does take, but a good quality one does?
You mean an excellent quality embryo doesn't take, you mean doesn't move
Possibly.
forward?
Yeah.
Probably. Well, unfortunately, this is something that it's biology. Embryos we have today, we can keep the embryos outside the uterus up to day 5. Some embryos are doing all the right things up to day 5, and they can stop 2 days later, even if morphologically are excellent. It's really something weird. It's just the embryologists usually select the excellent quality embryos because statistics have shown that they have slightly higher numbers of achieving pregnancy. It doesn't mean that the good or the medium quality embryos, they don't have success rates. So we have seen many times to achieve pregnancies from poor quality embryos or even from medium quality embryos, and this is something that it's biology. Morphology of the embryos is not an indicative factor for success. It helps a little with the selection of the embryo, a little more, not, but it's not something definite as well.
Thank you.
Thank you
For the answer to this question and for the question as well. The next one, does Gennima have a location in Mexico?
Unfortunately, not at the moment. It would be great to have it there. It's a sunny, nice place. I'll talk to the manager here, and maybe we can arrange something. Unfortunately, we are located in Greece, but it's easy to come. Actually, we had a couple that came from Mexico, and it wasn't that difficult for them to travel.
Thank you for the answer. We then take a look for the next question. What do you mean by the study of phenotype? Do you make a match with the donor and receiver genes?
Phenotype, it's actually the way that we look. Phenotype is our external appearance. We don't match the donor and the receiver genes. We try to find a physical similarity to the donor and the receiver. So let's say the receiver is 1 meter 70 and she is 50 kilograms. Then we have to find a donor that she's tall and thin as well. If she has green eyes, then we try to match the color of the eyes. We try to match the color of the hair. So this is phenotype matching. There is no specific genetic test. It's just by using pictures and try to see who looks similar to whom. The thing that I mentioned was that some clinics are trying to see if immunologically a donor and a recipient match, because some studies suggested that some people, it's like doing a transplantation. When you do a transplantation of the kidney, you try to make sure that the receiver has compatible immunological system with the donor. It's something like that as well, but it has nothing to do with genes. It's more like an immunological aspect.
And thank you for explaining this to us.
Thank you.
We will then take a look on the next question. If the transportation of the eggs happens later, not at the same time with egg production, what is the procedure for the recipient? If the eggs are frozen, what happens with the recipient? Does she take medicines to be prepared? For how long, etc.?
Yeah, that's a common condition that can happen, especially with couples. Let's say we're located here in Greece and a couple is traveling from the United States. Sometimes it's difficult to do the synchronization of the cycles, and in that case, we can proceed using frozen embryos. So the procedure is very easy. Usually, the recipient on the first day of her menstrual period, she informs the clinic, and then she starts taking some estrogens, which is a very mild human replacement treatment, hormonal replacement treatment. It's estrogen 2 milligrams, usually 3 times daily. She can take that for about 10 days, and on day 10, we perform an ultrasound scan, which she can do that at home. The ultrasound scan will show whether the lining of the womb has reached up to a certain level, let's say 9 millimeters. And when she is ready with a thickness, then she starts another hormone called progesterone, which is a very easy hormone to find. She takes that orally as well for about 5 days. On day 5 of the progesterone, we do the embryo transfer. Um, the These medications are very well tolerated, and it takes about 14 days if we want to transfer day 5 embryos, which are called blastocysts. Um, the studies have shown that they have excellent results, completely comparable with the fresh cycle, so it's not a problem at all.
And thank you for the question and for your answer, of course. And the next question, this is actually the question and a small discussion, so I will present all of it. Is 50-year-old age limit Greek law or is it clinic policy? And there is a follow-up comment. It's Greek law 49 and 364 days, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's absolutely right. It's the Greek law. There are a few clinics outside, in some other countries, that they might be able to do that up to the age of 52, 54, but here in Greece, unfortunately, the law is very strict. So, as James suggested, when we reach 49 and 365 days on the birthday, we cannot do anything. We can transfer though 1 day before you become 50, but after that we cannot.
You.
Thank you.
For the question, for the comment, and for your answer, of course. Okay, the next question we will look closer at will be this one: how to prepare the best environment for the embryo as a future mom?
That's a really good question. It takes it's very difficult to answer that in a short way. Um, the environment of an embryo usually, we can prepare it first of all when we choose to follow a healthy lifestyle. Women nowadays that they are above 40, they look 30 years, 25 years old. The age is it's just a number, especially when they are following a healthy way of life, exercise, healthy diet. This is the first step to create a very good environment for the embryo, and especially if you follow the same rules while you're pregnant. Usually, before starting IVF procedure or egg donation, we give vitamins to help uh, with the embryo um, to grow in a much healthier way. And now, in terms of environment, if you mean the uterus, or if we can do something to help the uterus, this is something that it's difficult to answer because sometimes some clinics can perform hysteroscopy before embryo transfer to help the embryo to be implanted, make sure that the lining of the womb is much more receptive. So again, this needs specific indication. With a short way, of course, you can help build a good environment by just following a very healthy lifestyle.
Thank you for your explanation and, of course, for the question. The next question, which we have, will be this one. Can you influence the DNA of the egg? There are some reports from Spain that the female carrying the baby can influence the DNA of the egg.
Yeah, that's a very good question. There are some experimental procedures at the moment, which actually it's called the transfer of trunk DNA. So it means that you can take the donor's egg, you can take the recipient's egg, and transfer the core that the recipient has into the egg of the donor after you remove the core there. So you just use a part of the donor egg and you keep the DNA of the mother. This is actually very experimental, and the last Congress that took place in Vienna from the European Society of Human Reproduction stated that this still needs to be further examined, this procedure, and we cannot guarantee that it's going to work or it's going to produce healthy babies. So in experimental way, yes, they can influence the DNA with the way that I described, but still it's not something that we can use in the everyday practice. Maybe in a few years later, if the safety of the procedure has been well demonstrated. Thank you very much.
And thank you for the answer. Next question is this one. What is the percentage of success of egg donation over 45?
To be honest, is excellent. Age is not playing any role when you go ahead with egg donation. If the whole procedure goes according to plan and we collect a large amount of eggs from the donor, and we have good fertilization from the partner sperm, usually we're talking about 70 to 75% of success rate, and this is, I could say, a very moderate number which I'm giving you. Some studies have suggested even higher success rates, even in women that they are 49 years of age. If it depends only on the quality of the eggs, we are talking about 70 to 75%. Of course, each woman is a completely individual person, and we don't know what's going on with the uterus and whether the uterus is receptive for the embryos. Of course, she needs to be healthy, she needs to not carry extra weight. All these factors can affect the success rate, but if we're talking only from the embryo's point of view, we're talking about 70 to 75%, so it's quite high. Thank you.
Yes, and we have actually the follow-up question, so we will take it at once. Is there a risk over 45 to transfer 2 eggs at a time?
That's a very, very good question as well. Transferring 2 eggs, 2 embryos, it's something that most of the clinics do, but usually we recommend to transfer 1. We know that twin pregnancy, of course, carries risk, especially for preterm deliveries and some additional, it puts some additional stress to the body of the recipient. It We have seen that the majority of women don't have any problems transferring two embryos, but what we would ideally want is to achieve a singleton pregnancy. And we don't mean only for women over 45, but for all the age groups as well. So we would usually recommend, if we have excellent quality embryos, to transfer only one. Of course, in cases that we have failed in the first attempt, a lot of women want to transfer two to maximize the success rate, which is something that we understand, and we go ahead, and usually we don't not have any problems transferring when we transfer two embryos. As we said earlier, even if we transfer two, 8 out of 10 times, only one will continue, and only 20% we will have a twin pregnancy. Thank you very much.
And thank you for the answer to this question. We will then take a question which
Of course.
a little longer, but thank you for giving details about statistics. They are eye-opening. I am 43, and I know that odds of succeeding with own eggs are little. I just cannot accept that being in great shape, I cannot have influence on quality of my eggs. How are you helping to accept that and proceed with donor eggs?
That's a very, very good question as well. It's really difficult to convince someone that she might not be able to achieve a pregnancy of their own. Of course, in medicine, we don't have 100%. The doctors usually cannot say something with 100% accuracy. Of course, Ella, you can become pregnant while you're 43, and no one can say that you cannot if you still have menstrual period. It's just the chances might be lower. Unfortunately, women are born with their eggs, and even if they do the most healthy diet and do the healthiest, they have the healthiest way of life, DNA is something completely out of our reach. We are born with this way, and there is nothing that we can do to influence DNA to make it better. If that was the case, then people wouldn't have cancer, people wouldn't have other genetic diseases. And unfortunately, the only thing that you can do is to keep up with your very healthy lifestyle, because if you become pregnant on your own, because you have a 4% chance each month when you are 43, then your baby is going to grow on a very healthy environment. Now, about the second part, how we are helping to accept that a woman is not able to become pregnant easily at the age of 43, we cannot do something to convince you. Just we see daily couples that they had a long time trying to conceive. Let's say we see couples that they have been trying for 10 years, they have done 10 time IVF attempts, and they have failed, they had miscarriages. Usually when you try and you're not successful, it's something that changes, it grows inside you. So when we first do this discussion, 99% of women, they are completely negative of doing the egg donation. But after a while, when they do another IVF attempt and it fails, or they have a miscarriage, all these are factors that make women think in a different way, and usually they accept it. Usually we have noticed that women accept it easier than the partners. The partner is always a very important factor. Usually partners are a little negative, but the circumstances at the end make you rethink. Thank you very much.
And thank you for the great explanation to this question. We will take the next one, which
Of course.
is there anything that you can suggest for the recipient to do in order to have the best environment for a more successful implantation other than the medication recommended by the clinic, or should the medication be more than enough? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very nice question as well. A lot of women, when we discuss the way that we can make the environment of the uterus receptive, by meaning receptive, we have to act. When we transfer the embryo, it has to be on a certain day of the cycle, which is called implantation window. We cannot transfer every day we want an embryo in the uterus because the uterus will think that this is an enemy and it will try to fight it away. But for 4 days, we know that the uterus is becoming receptive. These 4 days usually are the days following the ovulation. Now, when we do the embryo transfer, it's sometimes very difficult to identify the implantation window, and that's why sometimes we have to give medication to do a substituted cycle where we can control the days that we will do the embryo transfer. Many women, though, they don't want to take any medication at all and go on with a natural cycle, and this can work as well very well. The worst case scenario is not to be able to identify the implantation window and go ahead next month to transfer the embryo. But apart from medication and healthy lifestyle, there is nothing else that we could suggest for the recipient to do to have a better environment. Many women think that stress is a factor that they should work on, and we agree stress doesn't help anything. But on the other hand, here in Athens, the highest pregnancy rate was recorded on the Second World War, where stress was really high. So, we cannot just say to people, don't be stressed. Stress always is going to be there, but it doesn't play so much role as we think. Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you for the answer and the great advice about not stressing. This is an important one. The next question, though, we have, and this will be like big news, and we keep fingers crossed. I had an embryo transfer last week, embryo donation, and I found out today that I'm pregnant.
Congratulations.
And I'm taking 800 milligrams of utrogestan every day. Is it not harmful for a baby? And what about Progenova?
Yeah, congratulations. I'm sure your baby will be great and you deliver a healthy child. And to be honest, in all fertility clinics, we use a lot of utrogestan. Utrogestan, for people that they do not know, is progesterone. Progesterone is a hormone that supports the embryo. The reason is in a pregnancy, you have to balance the estrogen and the progesterone levels. Estrogens are quite high uh, because of the whole process, and you have to give additional progesterone to balance the levels and make the uterus keep the baby inside. It's like hugging the baby. 800 milligrams, it's a normal dose. In our congress in Vienna that took place a couple of months, there was a big discussion about progesterone and how we support the baby. And it was shown that giving orally progesterone at least 600 milligrams, it's helpful for the first weeks of the pregnancy. So I can definitely tell you that I agree, and it's not going to be helpful for your baby at all. Progenova is also progesterone, you can take it vaginally. But the latest discussion suggested that oral, when you take orally, the progesterone is slightly better than vaginally. Of course, if you have a lot of symptoms and you cannot tolerate it well orally, if you feel very nauseous or if you feel sleepy all the time, you can use Progenova vaginally. It could be a solution as well, but it's not harmful for your baby. And congratulations again.
Yes, and thank you for the answer to these questions. And one more time, fingers crossed. And we will then jump to the next question, which is this one. When you are 35 years old with FSH 43 and AMH 0.1, is egg donation the only way?
Yeah, and Maria, I can understand it's 35-year-old girl. Usually, we try a lot to succeed with your own eggs. Of course, when you're 35, we know that if you produce only one egg, you have about 20% chance of fertilization and to proceed with a healthy pregnancy. Here in our clinic, we have seen that scenario daily. A lot of women, they come here with premature ovarian failure because this is probably the condition. Definitely, it's not easy, but in your case, we wouldn't go immediately ahead with egg donation. We would do a few attempts maybe with natural cycles because FSH, which is a follicular stimulating hormone, which is 43, it means that your brain is pushing a lot your ovaries to work, and we wouldn't be able to give any other medication to produce more eggs. We would go ahead probably with a few natural cycles, and if we couldn't achieve anything, let's say after 6 months, in that case we could discuss about egg donation. But if you produce only one egg, because you're very young, you're only 35, you have good chances. Maybe in a couple of months, FSH might be less. It can happen. We would recommend you maybe to take some vitamins that they usually have DHA. Some studies have shown that they can help a little the condition, and try to do some natural cycles. If you get tired with the natural cycles, then you could explore the other solution, but you have time for the egg donation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have had many questions so far, so we will now, I think,
Nice.
we will take a shout out as we have some questions to go. Thank you very much, and very interesting webinar. It was a pleasure to participate. We have a few questions coming up still, so we will then take it one by one. If you have any more questions, it's a final call for the questions. And one of the last questions for today will be this one. Hello, some clinics do not have embryoscopes. Does that reduce the chances of success?
Yeah, to be honest, it doesn't reduce the chances of success. Each clinic should be obliged to show their results. They should send it to the regulatory organization that they belong to. So let's say a clinic has 70% of success rate with an old embryoscope. It's not gonna become worse because they don't have the new generation embryoscopes. It's just if they use the new generation embryoscopes, maybe their success rate could go up to 80%. This is something that we noticed when we took the new generation embryoscope. We saw a significant increase in our success rates because the embryoscope, what it does is like doing a implantation testing and non-invasive pre-implantation testing, um, and it gives some additional information about the health of the embryo, of the developing embryo. Um, so it only increases the percentage of the success. The old embryoscope, we don't reduce it, so don't worry about that. It's just we're trying to find a non-invasive way to identify the healthiest embryos. At the moment, we know that there is something called pre-implantation testing, where they take some cells from the embryo, but this is an invasive technique. They might reduce the potential of a healthy embryo to grow because it's like doing a surgical procedure. And it's not, again, 100% accurate, so we're trying to find ways to work around it, and this is, we think, the new step is using the new generation embryoscopes with time-lapse technology. Thank you very much.
And thank you for this answer as well. The next question we will take a look is this one. I have multiple polyps in the uterus. Would it be enough just to remove them via hysteroscopy procedure right before implantation, or the biopsy needs to be done in advance? And thank you.
Yeah, of course, Anna, definitely agree. The polyps is like having a foreign body inside your uterus. Is like having a coil. It's something that will definitely reduce the success rate. And usually in our practice, when a woman has a polyps, ideally we would like to remove it 1 month before going ahead with any IVF treatment, because by removing them with hysteroscopy and doing a gentle scratching of the lining of the womb, a mild curettage of the lining of the womb usually makes the uterus more receptive. We have noticed that following a hysteroscopy with removing polyps or doing a gentle curettage, success rates are a little higher because the lining of the womb becomes fresh again. It's more receptive, and some cells that they live in the area called uterine natural killers, they we can do something like a reset and make them work within the normal range again. So my advice would be a month before doing the embryo transfer, do a hysteroscopy and remove the polyps, and ask your doctor to perform a gently curate touch in the lining of the womb to help the implantation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. The next question will be this one. Thank you for your previous answer to my question. What happens if the baby child has some health issues in the future and the donor's medical history is needed? How can this be gained if the donor is remain anonymous? Thank you.
That's a great question, Lisa. Thank you. This is the reason why when you choose your IVF clinic, you have to go to a well-established clinic that works for a long time, and it's going to be there for many, many years. When we do anonymous donation, the clinic keeps a track of the donors. We have a very good database, and the donors can always be found from the clinic, from us. So let's say 10 years later, unfortunately, the baby has a problem, let's say leukemia, and we have to find a donor, maybe because he's compatible to help with bone marrow transplant. In that case, the clinic will find the donor and will do all the necessary things. but the anonymity of the family, it's gonna be kept safe. So this is the reason why I said earlier that picking up the right clinic and not small clinics that they might be there for 5 years and then disappear. Picking up clinics that they work in the right way is something that will help you and make sure your well-being and your child's well-being for all the life. So it can be gained. Don't worry about that, Lisa. We have ways to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation and this great piece of advice as well. We will then take the next question, which is this one. Some clinics, especially in Greece and northern Cyprus, administer baby aspirin 100 milligrams once daily before and after transfer and until the 7th month of pregnancy. Does it have no side effects on the baby?
Thank you very much, Zneb, for the question. Yes, I agree. It's a common practice for many IVF clinics to give routinely aspirin. I have to say that when we give aspirin, we have to have a clear indication what we want to achieve by giving this aspirin. I want to reassure you that it's completely, it doesn't cause any harm to your baby, even if you take it up to the 7th month. Usually we stop aspirin when you are 32 weeks of pregnancy. A recent study that was performed by a very well-known person that invented the nuchal translucency test, it's called Kypros Nikolaidis, demonstrated that women that they are above the age of 40, when they take a small dose of aspirin, it helps the invasion of the placenta, and with this way we avoid possible conditions like preeclampsia, because a proper placenta can actually um, help deliver a healthy baby at full term. And for that reason, many places for women above 40, they give routinely aspirin. In our practice, usually we do some thrombophilia testing and we decide whether we have to give aspirin or not. So we wouldn't give it routinely, but if you take it, it's not going to cause any problem to your baby. So don't worry about that.
And thank you
Thank
for your great explanation as well. Someone is typing, you actually have answered all the questions. Yes,
Great, I'm very happy for that.
it just appears. So, is it safe to fly after the implantation? Sometimes I get menstruation starting after flight.
Yeah, usually we advise the couples that they had embryo transfer to fly 2 or 3 days after the embryo transfer. It is completely safe to fly. It doesn't cause any problem. The moment that the baby goes inside the womb, it's completely protected. The womb actually is like a cage full of muscles that keeps the baby completely safe. Usually, if you have to fly after the implantation, it's not going to cause any problem to the implantation. We just give instructions for you to be well hydrated, and if the fly is very long, uh, to wear compression stockings, to walk inside the airplane every 40-45 minutes, and sometimes, especially if you are later in the pregnancy, maybe do a blood thinner injection on the day of the flight, or just to be on the safe side. So the answer is it's completely safe. Uh, Flight doesn't affect usually the menstrual period. I don't know why you get menstruation after the flight, but it shouldn't be doing that. It's I think it's safe to fly after that. Most of our couples, they fly. We do the embryo transfer, and 2 or 3 days later, they fly for Singapore, which is 14, 15 hours flight. It's not causing any problem at all, honestly. Thank you.
Thank you for this explanation as well. And of course, as you have answered all our questions this evening, I have a huge amount of shout out. Thank you for your
Oh, really?
answer.
Yeah, you're an amazing crowd, and thank
They
you
are
very much
very, yeah, they are
for
very
listening
helpful.
to me. And of course, if you need any other, if you think of anything else that you would like to ask, we're very happy to, if they send the questions to you, I would be very happy to email answers and everything. You have been excellent, and thank you very, very much. It's an amazing experience for me. Thank you.
Yes, and more thank yous from us. Thank you very much. And one more thank you. And thank you for the presentation, which as
Okay.
I as I said was very informative. And thank you again, Dr.
Thank
Natsis.
you, then.
Okay, so we will be finishing for today, and thank you for your time, everybody, for being here with us today. Of course, thank you for your time, Dr. Stavros, and
It's a pleasure.
Gennima IVF for doing this IVF webinars with us. And of course, to all the attendees and everybody who was with us today, thank you for your participation and for your questions.
It's an honor. It's an honor for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, as I told you at the beginning, the rewatch and the recording from today will be available on our website tomorrow. You can always subscribe to our YouTube channel where all the IVF webinars are also uploaded, and you can watch all of them. Yeah, it will be hard to do it at once, but yes, you can research through this vast source of knowledge. And yeah, follow us on our social media, and of course you can follow Gennima IVF. They have also great content there, and just keep in touch with us. Dr. Stavros, if you want to add anything, please do that.
It's a pleasure to speak to a lovely audience. I hope we will repeat that with a different topic. Have a nice night. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, and of course have a great night and day wherever you are, and see you next time, and bye bye to Greece.
Bye bye. Have a nice night. Bye.
Bye.